Chosen ones, March 31st. Enough is enough. Now God is intervening. You need to hear this before Tuesday comes. Not because something bad is going to happen, but because something has already been happening to you, inside you, around you. And March 31st is the date where God says enough. Enough of the exhaustion no one understands. Enough of the isolation that makes you question your own sanity. Enough of carrying weight that doesn't belong to this dimension alone. If you've been living with one foot in the physical world and one foot somewhere else, somewhere deeper, somewhere invisible, somewhere that most people don't even believe exists, then this video is not a coincidence. This is a direct message, and I need you to stay until the end, because what I'm about to explain is going to validate something you've been carrying alone for years, maybe decades, and that weight is about to be acknowledged by the only force in the universe that truly understands why you carry it. Let me be very specific about what I mean. You are not like other people, and I don't say that to flatter you. I say that because it's the source of almost every problem you've faced. You walk into a room and you don't just see the people in it. You feel the room. You detect the unspoken argument that happened 20 minutes before you arrived. You sense which smile is genuine and which one is a performance. You absorb emotions that don't belong to you and carry them in your chest for hours, sometimes days, without knowing why you suddenly feel heavy or anxious or angry for no apparent reason. This is not a personality trait. This is not being an empath in the trendy social media sense of the word. This is the architecture of your consciousness, operating exactly as it was designed. And that design has a name. You are a bridge. You exist between two realities simultaneously. And March 31st is when the God who built that bridge finally reinforces it. Here's something that nobody in your life has ever been able to explain to you, and it's probably the single most isolating experience you've ever had. You remember things that never happened, not in the way of false memories or confusion. You carry knowledge you never acquired. You have skills or understandings that seem to emerge from nowhere. You dream entire lifetimes, structured, coherent, detailed narratives that feel more real than your waking life. You wake up exhausted, not because you slept poorly, but because you were working, somewhere, in some dimension of activity that your conscious mind can't fully access, but your body absolutely registers. If you've been to doctors about your fatigue and they found nothing wrong, if your blood work is normal and your scans are clear, but you still feel like you've run a marathon by noon, this is why. You are living a double life, not by choice, by design. And the strain of that double existence has been accumulating, compounding, pressing against the limits of what your physical body can sustain. God sees that strain, and on March 31st intervention begins. I want to stop here for a moment and address something critical. What I'm describing is not mental illness, it's not dissociation, it's not psychosis, and the fact that you've probably questioned your own sanity at multiple points in your life is itself evidence of how isolating this design is. Because the world has no category for what you are. Psychology calls parts of your experience depersonalization. Psychiatry might label your heightened perception as hypervigilance. Neuroscience would point to your mirror neuron system being abnormally active, and all of those descriptions capture fragments of the truth without understanding the whole. You are not malfunctioning. You are functioning on a frequency that existing frameworks weren't built to measure. And this is exactly where God intervenes. Not to fix what's broken, but to finally reveal the purpose of what was always working. Subscribe to this channel right now, I mean it. Don't wait until the end of this video. What I'm about to explain in the next section is something that most spiritual teachers either don't know or are afraid to say directly. And if you've been carrying the burden of dual reality consciousness without understanding why, the next few minutes are going to change the entire way you relate to your own existence. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and stay with me. Let me take you into the mechanics of what you are, because understanding the mechanics is what transforms suffering into purpose. Your nervous system is not a single-channel processor. Most human beings experience reality through one primary channel, the physical. They see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Their emotions respond to stimuli in their immediate environment. Their thoughts are generated by their experiences, memories, and cultural programming. One channel, one reality, one layer of information at a time. Your system doesn't work that way. You process multiple channels simultaneously. You receive physical sensory data, and at the same time, you're processing emotional frequencies from people around you, spiritual impressions that have no physical source, temporal information from past and future that bleeds into your present awareness, and energetic signatures from spaces and objects that carry historical imprints. This is not metaphor. Research in the field of quantum cognition has begun exploring how human consciousness may operate through non-local processing, meaning your brain may be accessing information that isn't located in your immediate physical environment. Dr. Dean Radin's work at the Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented statistically significant evidence of precognition and non-local awareness in controlled laboratory settings. What mystics have called the gift of discernment, science is beginning to call non-local consciousness. You are living proof of both descriptions. But here's the cost, and this is the part that breaks my heart for you. Every single day you pay a price for this architecture that no one around you sees. A 30-minute conversation at a family gathering leaves you drained for hours, not because you're introverted, but because you just processed 7 layers of information that everyone else in the room was completely oblivious to. You detected that your cousin's laughter was covering grief. You felt the tension between 2 people who smiled at each other, but hadn't forgiven a wound from years ago. You absorbed the spiritual heaviness of a room where unresolved generational patterns were silently operating beneath every exchange. And then someone looked at you and said, "Why are you so quiet? Why do you always look so serious? Why can't you just relax and enjoy yourself?" And in that moment, the isolation compounded. Because you can't explain what you carry. The vocabulary doesn't exist in casual conversation. And even if it did, who would believe you? That's why God is intervening on March 31st. Not with a dramatic display, not with fire from the sky, but with something far more personal and far more powerful, with recognition. The intervention is God making himself known to you in a way that specifically addresses the isolation of being a bridge. You've been translating between worlds without acknowledgement. You've been standing in the gap between the seen and the unseen, absorbing impact from both sides, and the strain has been enormous. On Tuesday, something shifts in that dynamic. The weight doesn't disappear entirely. That's not how bridges work. But the support structure changes. You're going to feel it physically. A lightness in your chest that you haven't felt in months, maybe years. A breath that goes deeper than your usual breathing allows. A moment where the noise, the constant, relentless input from multiple dimensions, goes quiet. Not forever, but long enough for you to hear something you've been too overwhelmed to receive. And what you hear in that silence is going to realign everything. Drop a comment right now with the word bridge if you have ever felt like you exist between 2 worlds. If you felt too logical for spiritual people and too spiritual for logical people. If you've never fully fit into any group, any community, any category. Comment bridge because I want you to see that you are not alone in this experience. And when you scroll through those comments and see hundreds of others who carry the same impossible duality, something in your nervous system is going to relax for the first time in a very long time. Because isolation loses its power the moment you realize it was a shared experience all along. Let me explain something about the Hebrew concept of the word pala. Pala means to be wonderful, to be extraordinary, to be set apart in a way that exceeds normal understanding. When the scriptures describe certain acts of God as wonderful, they're using this word, pala. But here's what's rarely taught. Pala doesn't just describe the event. It describes the instrument through which the event occurs. When God works through a pala vessel, the vessel itself becomes incomprehensible to ordinary observation. People can't figure you out. They can't categorize you. They sense something different about you but can't name it. Your presence disrupts the usual patterns of interaction, not because you're trying to, but because your frequency doesn't match the room. This is pala. You are pala. And the reason this matters on March 31st is because God is about to use the very quality that has isolated you as the mechanism for your intervention. The thing that made you feel wrong is the exact thing that makes you essential. Now I need to tell you about something that's been happening around you that you've probably noticed, but haven't known how to interpret. Your technology has been acting strange. Your phone glitches at specific moments, not randomly, but when you're in heightened emotional or spiritual states. Lights flicker. Electronic devices behave unpredictably in your presence. Watches lose time on your wrist. Wi-Fi drops when you walk into certain rooms. If you've experienced this, I need you to understand what's happening at a physical level. Your body generates an electromagnetic field. Every human body does. But research has shown that this field varies significantly in strength and coherence from person to person. The HeartMath Institute has documented that the heart's electromagnetic field extends several feet beyond the body and can influence the electrical systems of nearby devices and even the physiological rhythms of other people. Your field is stronger than average, not because you're trying to project it, but because you are processing energy from multiple dimensional sources simultaneously, and that processing generates a measurable increase in electromagnetic output. The technology around you isn't malfunctioning. It's responding to you. And on March 31st, that field intensifies. Be aware of it. Don't be alarmed by it. It's a sign that the intervention is physically present, not just spiritually conceptual. Like this video right now. Not for me. For the algorithm that connects this message to every other person on this planet who is carrying the weight of dual reality consciousness and doesn't know why. When you press that button, you're not just supporting a channel. You're extending a lifeline to someone who is right now at this exact moment questioning whether they're losing their mind because they feel things that nobody around them can validate. Your like might be the thing that puts this video in their feed. And that could change everything for them, so press it. Press it as an act of service to someone you'll never meet, but who needs exactly what you've just heard. Let me go deeper into what's happening on March 31st specifically, because I want you to enter Tuesday with precise understanding, not vague hope. There are 3 phases to this divine intervention, and they unfold in sequence. The first phase is the silencing. At some point on Tuesday, and you won't be able to predict exactly when, the constant input that your system processes will go quiet. The background noise of other people's emotions, the ambient spiritual data, the electromagnetic chatter from the invisible realm, all of it will suddenly reduce. This will feel disorienting at first. You're so accustomed to the noise that silence feels like something is wrong. It's not wrong. It's God clearing the channel. Think of it like a radio station that stops broadcasting every other signal, so you can hear one clear frequency. That one frequency is the message meant specifically for you. Pay attention to what enters your awareness during this silence. It won't be dramatic. It'll be quiet, precise. A thought that doesn't feel like it originated in your own mind. An understanding that arrives fully formed, without the usual process of reasoning through steps. A knowing. That knowing is the intervention. Receive it. The second phase is the recalibration. After the silence delivers its message, your system begins adjusting. This might happen Tuesday evening or extend into Wednesday. During this phase, your body is literally resetting its baseline. The chronic fatigue begins to shift, not vanish overnight, but you'll notice a different quality to your energy. It's as if your system has been running on a processor that was handling too many background applications, and God just closed the unnecessary ones. You'll feel lighter, clearer. Your thoughts will have more precision and less noise. Decisions that have been foggy for weeks will suddenly have obvious answers. This isn't because the decisions changed. It's because your processing capacity just increased. The bridge didn't get narrower. The traffic got organized. The third phase is the deployment, and this is the one that matters most long-term. After the silencing and the recalibration, you enter a phase where your dual reality consciousness stops being a burden and starts being operational. Operational means that instead of passively absorbing information from multiple dimensions, you begin actively directing it. You stop being overwhelmed by the input and start using it with intention. The conversations you have after this shift will be different. People will tell you things they've never told anyone. Not because you asked, but because your recalibrated frequency creates a space of safety that their subconscious recognizes. Solutions to problems will arrive in your mind with unusual speed and clarity. Creative ideas will flow with less friction. And most importantly, the isolation that has defined your experience begins to transform. Not because you suddenly fit in, you never will, and that's not the design, but because you stop interpreting your differentness as deficiency and start recognizing it as divine engineering. I need you to hear something that might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. The exhaustion you've been carrying is not yours alone. Part of the fatigue you feel every day comes from the fact that you've been doing spiritual work that you were never consciously assigned, but that your system performs automatically. You intercept negative energy in environments and transmute it without knowing you're doing it. You carry emotional weight for family members who have never processed their own pain. You absorb generational patterns, trauma, limitation, fear, and your consciousness works to break those patterns, burning enormous amounts of energy in the process. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because you have been working at a scale that would overwhelm most people's systems in hours. And God sees every single unit of energy you've spent. Every sleepless night. Every moment of confusion. Every time you questioned why life felt so much harder for you than for everyone else. He sees it, and March 31st is his answer. Enough. The season of unacknowledged labor is ending. The bridge is being reinforced. The weight is being redistributed. You will still carry. That's what bridges do. But you will no longer carry alone, and you will no longer carry without understanding why. Share this video with someone right now. Not everyone. Someone specific. Someone you've sensed carries the same invisible weight. Someone whose eyes hold a depth that others don't seem to notice. Someone who disappears into solitude not because they're antisocial, but because they need to reconnect with a reality that most people don't access. Send it to them. Don't explain why. Just send it. If they're meant to receive it, the first 30 seconds will grip them the same way it gripped you. And if they watch to this point, they'll know, finally, that they're not alone. Let me address the technology piece one more time, because there's a practical dimension to this that you need to understand heading into Tuesday. Your electromagnetic signature is going to be elevated during the intervention. This means electronics in your immediate vicinity may behave more erratically than usual. Your phone might restart. Your car's dashboard lights might flicker. Your computer might freeze at a moment that feels oddly significant. Don't panic. Don't assign negative meaning to it. These are physical reverberations of a spiritual process. Your field is expanding to accommodate the upgrade, and the devices around you are responding to the increased output. If possible, keep a journal near you on Tuesday. When something unusual happens, technological, relational, or perceptual, write it down. You'll want a record of this day, not because anyone else needs to believe it, but because you will need to reference it later when the rational part of your mind tries to convince you that nothing happened. There's a pattern in Scripture that I want you to understand because it directly applies to what's happening to you. Throughout the Bible, every person God used as a bridge between realms experienced the same sequence. Moses stood between God and Israel, and the strain nearly killed him until God restructured his support system through Jethro's advice. Elijah stood between prophetic truth and a hostile kingdom, and the exhaustion drove him to collapse under a tree until God sent provision and rest. Daniel operated between Babylonian power and divine revelation, and the visions left him physically ill for days until his strength was restored. In every case, the pattern is identical. The bridge reaches a point of maximum strain. The person operating as the bridge reaches the edge of what they can sustain. And then God intervenes, not to remove them from the role, but to reinforce them within it. You are at that point of maximum strain right now. You've reached the edge, and March 31st is the intervention moment that every bridge before you has experienced. You are not the first to carry this weight. You are not the first to break under it, and you will not be the first to be reinforced. I want to speak directly to something that you've been afraid to say out loud. You've wondered if you're going crazy, genuinely wondered. There have been moments, maybe late at night, maybe in the middle of a crowded room, where the gap between what you perceive and what everyone else seems to experience was so vast that you questioned your own grip on reality. You've thought about seeking psychiatric evaluation, not because you believe something is clinically wrong, but because the loneliness of unexplained perception becomes unbearable enough that any label, even a clinical one, would at least give you a framework. I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. You are not losing your mind. You are operating your mind at a level that exceeds the standard manual. There is no diagnostic code for bridge consciousness. There is no medication for multidimensional perception. And the fact that you've carried this without external validation for as long as you have is not evidence of weakness. It's evidence of a resilience that should be impossible. That resilience is about to be rewarded. Not with applause, not with recognition from the people around you, but with the one thing you've actually been craving beneath every other desire: understanding. On Tuesday, you will understand yourself in a way that you never have before. And that understanding will be enough to carry you forward into everything that comes next. Comment bridge below right now. Let this be the moment where you stop carrying this alone. Let this comment section become the proof that bridge consciousness is real, that it's shared, and that God has not forgotten the weight it carries. And then, prepare yourself. March 31st is not another spiritual prediction. It's not another hopeful date on a calendar. It is God looking at the bridge He built, you, and saying enough. Enough strain without support, enough labor without recognition, enough isolation without intervention. Tuesday, He intervenes. And nothing about the way you experience yourself, your reality or your purpose will be the same after. You were built for this, not built to break, built to bridge. And bridges don't exist for themselves. They exist to carry others across gaps that would otherwise be impossible to cross. The gap is real. The crossing is necessary. And you, exhausted, confused, isolated, extraordinary you, are the only architecture that spans it. March 31st is when the architect shows up to inspect his work. And what he's going to say is not that you need repairs, it's that you're ready for traffic, real traffic. The kind of purpose and influence and impact that your double life has been training you for all along. Get ready. Tuesday is yours.